They forgot my husband's memorial service. When I reminded them, my daughter said, "We had brunch. You should have picked a better time." I stood alone at his grave, holding the flag from his service. That night, I went home, logged into his trust account, and changed one line they never read until. My name is Marlene. I live in Akron, Ohio. I'm 67, retired, and a widow. I was married to Tom for 42 years. We had 2 kids, Rachel, my oldest, and Evan, my youngest. Tom passed away in January. One minute he was standing at the counter pouring coffee, the next he was on the floor. I screamed his name, dropped the laundry basket, and ran to him. He wasn't breathing. I called 911 and tried to remember how to do CPR. My hands were shaking. I couldn't think straight. When the paramedics got there, I already knew he was gone. They worked on him for a bit anyway. But when one of them looked at me with that quiet face and told me I should sit down, it was over. He was my everything. I had never been alone in this house. Not like that. Tom was always here. His slippers by the door, his toothbrush next to mine, his laugh during Jeopardy! His quiet cough in the mornings when he read the newspaper. Now, just silence. The funeral home tried to talk me into a fancy indoor service. But Tom had told me for years what he wanted. He wanted something simple. Outside. Military honors. He served in the Navy and was proud of that. He didn't want anything expensive or stuffy. So I called the cemetery out in Barberton where his parents were buried. They had a veterans section. I arranged for the Navy Honor Guard, the flag, and a chaplain to say a few words. I texted Rachel the date. I called Evan too. I told them it would be April 12th, at 11 a.m. I reminded them again a week before. Rachel was busy with work and said she would try. Evan said he had it on his calendar. The night before, I even texted both of them again. Tomorrow is Dad's memorial. 11 a.m. At the Barberton Cemetery. Neither replied. I didn't sleep that night. I laid on Tom's side of the bed just to feel close to him. I kept looking at the old wedding photo we had on the dresser. I got up early that morning. I dressed in black. I put on the necklace Tom gave me on our 25th anniversary. I wore the shoes I wore to my mother's funeral. I drove there by myself. It was cold. Gray skies, but no rain. I pulled up and parked. The white folding chairs were already set up. The Navy Honor Guard was waiting. The chaplain walked over and introduced himself. His name was Philip. Young, polite, didn't know Tom but said a few kind words anyway. I looked around. No one was there. Just me. The ceremony started. They folded the flag, called out Tom's name, and fired the rifles. I sat in the front row, by myself, while they honored my husband. They handed me the flag. I held it like it weighed 1,000 pounds. After it was done, the chaplain tried to make small talk. I think he felt sorry for me. I drove home. No calls. No texts. Just silence. I finally called Rachel. She answered on speaker. I could hear glasses clinking and laughter. "Hi Mom," she said, like nothing was wrong. I said, "Where were you?" She said, "Oh my God, was that today?" I didn't say anything. Then she said something I'll never forget. She laughed a little and said, "We had brunch for Madison's birthday. You should have picked a better time. Weekends are hard." I hung up the phone. I didn't cry. Not yet. I waited an hour and called Evan. He didn't answer. He texted a few hours later. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I thought it was next weekend. I feel awful." I didn't respond. I went to Tom's office. I sat in his chair. I looked at the folder labeled Trust Documents. I opened it. Tom and I set up that trust years ago. It was for the kids, mostly. The house, the savings, our pensions, everything. They'd split it after we were gone. But they never read it. Not even once. They knew it existed. They knew they'd get something. They always talked about it like it was a future payday. I logged into the account online. I scrolled to the legal documents. I opened the main file and stared at one line. Upon the death of both trustees, the assets shall be divided equally between Rachel, daughter, and Evan, son. I clicked edit. I added one sentence, provided they each attend and acknowledge, in person, any memorial service or burial of either trustee. I uploaded the new version. Then I sent a copy to Mr. Beringer, our lawyer, and told him to notarize and update the official file. He called to confirm it. "It's legal," he said. "You're within your rights." I said thank you and hung up. I waited. Weeks went by. Neither of my children brought up the memorial again. No apology. No flowers. No pictures of the grave. Nothing. A few months later, Rachel called. She wanted to know how much tuition we could help with for her son. She said she didn't want to dip into the trust yet. I said, "Let's talk about it later." Then Evan called. He said he was looking at a house and needed help with the down payment. Asked if he could borrow against the trust. I told him the same thing. "When I'm gone, you'll have what you need." They thanked me and hung up. And that was that. I lived the next year in silence. I visited Tom's grave once a week. I brought flowers and talked to him. I told him what I'd done. I told him I was sorry I had to do it. But I meant every word of it. Then, I fell. I slipped going down the back steps and broke my hip. I had to go into a rehab center for a while. That's when they came. Both of them. They visited the next week with smiles and flowers. Suddenly very caring. Very concerned. Rachel had a notebook. She said, "We just want to make sure we understand everything. You know, for when the time comes." Evan asked if I had a financial advisor they could talk to. "Just to prepare," he said. I nodded. "It's all in the trust," I said. They didn't ask to see it. They didn't ask if it had changed. They didn't think they needed to. I recovered slowly. I went back home. They stopped calling again. Then, about 8 months later, I passed away. They thought the trust would be simple. They thought they'd collect everything like it was owed to them. They didn't know what was waiting for them in that one line they never read. After I passed, the lawyer called Rachel and Evan. They were both listed as my emergency contacts, and also as the main beneficiaries of the trust. Rachel called Evan right after. "She's gone," she said. "We need to get on top of the estate stuff. I don't want any delays." Evan agreed. He had already been looking at new trucks and a place in Gahanna. He figured the trust would cover a good chunk of it. They met at Mr. Beringer's office 3 days later. Rachel showed up in a blazer like she was walking into a job interview. Evan was in jeans and a golf shirt. He kept asking how fast this could all move. They sat down across from Beringer, who looked tired. He was old, almost 80, and he'd known Tom and me for years. He used to come to our house for cookouts back when our kids were in high school. He looked at them with a long stare before he opened the folder in front of him. "This is the trust," he said, laying out the pages. "It was amended by your mother last year." They nodded, barely paying attention. "She made a small revision," he continued, tapping the 3rd page. "It affects disbursement." Rachel leaned forward. "What kind of revision?" He read it out loud. "Assets shall be divided equally between Rachel, last name, and Evan, last name, provided they each attend and acknowledge, in person, any memorial service or burial of either trustee." There was a long pause. Evan blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," Beringer said calmly, that because neither of you attended your father's memorial service, and neither of you were present for your mother's burial or memorial, which, I should note, was held privately according to her instructions, you are not entitled to receive any portion of the trust." Rachel's mouth dropped open. "You're joking." "No," he said. "I am not." Evan stood up. "That's insane. That's not legal. We didn't even know, she sent you the date of your father's service. She reminded you. You never showed up. And you never asked about hers. She was buried already?" Rachel asked. "Yes," he said. "Per her wishes, I arranged for a private burial 2 days ago. Only myself and the cemetery staff were there. She didn't want either of you present." That hit them hard. "She wouldn't do that," Rachel said. "We were trying to reconnect," Beringer interrupted. "She told me everything. She said she spent her husband's memorial alone, holding a flag while her daughter went to brunch." Evan turned red. "We didn't mean to, she left a letter," Beringer said, pulling out 2 sealed envelopes. "One for each of you." He slid them across the table. Neither of them touched the envelopes at first. Rachel opened hers slowly. "I had written it months before I died. I wanted to make sure they read my words, not just the numbers they thought they were owed." "Rachel, you chose mimosas over your father. Then you laughed about it. You called it brunch. I call it abandonment. I sat at your father's grave with no one beside me. That day, I realized how alone I truly was. This trust was meant to help the ones we raised. But you already made clear what your priorities were. Money is not love. You've had enough of both. Goodbye." Mom Evan's letter was shorter. "Evan, you missed your father's memorial. You missed mine. You missed everything that mattered. I hope you remember that when you wonder why the check never comes." Mom, they were both quiet after that. Rachel asked if there was any way to challenge it. Beringer shook his head. "Your mother had the document witnessed, notarized, and reviewed twice. It's locked in. There's nothing to fight. So where does it go?" Evan asked, voice shaking. "Where does all the money go?" Beringer smiled for the first time. "She left the trust to someone who showed up." They blinked. "What?" "She named an alternate beneficiary," he said. "One person. Not a relative." Rachel's voice cracked. "Who?" "Cameron Dorsey," Beringer said, sliding over a photo. "The young man who volunteered with the VA. He was the one who stood by her side during your father's memorial. He helped carry the flag to her car. He helped arrange the flowers for your mother's grave after her fall. He called her once a week just to check in." "He's a stranger," Rachel whispered. "He's more family than you acted," Beringer said. They sat there, stunned, while their entire inheritance slipped away. But it wasn't over yet. "Because when they left, furious, slamming the door behind them, I had one more twist waiting. And they didn't see it coming." 3 days after that meeting, Rachel showed up at Cameron Dorsey's apartment. She'd done some digging. Found out he lived on the edge of Cuyahoga Falls, in a small 1-bedroom walk-up above a pawn shop. Cameron was 24. Worked part-time at the VA hospital and did odd jobs on weekends. He wasn't rich. Far from it. She banged on his door like she was law enforcement. He opened it, confused. "You're Cameron?" she asked, arms crossed. "Yeah," he said. "Can I help you?" "I'm Rachel," she snapped. "Marlene's daughter." His face dropped a little. He stepped back. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said softly. "Save it," she said. "You stole my inheritance." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "The trust. The money. The house. All of it. You manipulated my mother. Took advantage of a grieving widow. You think this is yours?" "I didn't ask for anything," he said, voice calm. She gave it to me. I was there when no one else was. You weren't. You're a parasite, she said. And you're going to give it back. Or I'll fight you in court. He didn't flinch. I've already spoken with Mr. Beringer, he said. It's ironclad. I didn't trick her. I didn't even know she added me until she told me 6 months ago. I told her she didn't have to. But she said it was already done. Rachel didn't speak for a moment. Then she pulled out a manila envelope. What's this? He asked. Tom and Marlene's wedding photo. A copy. In case you want to keep playing house with what you stole. She dropped it at his feet and stormed off. Meanwhile, Evan had a different idea. He contacted another lawyer, not Beringer. A guy named Travis Weir in Cleveland, younger, slick. Promised he could poke holes in anything if the price was right. Evan spent thousands trying to build a case. Claimed their mother was coerced, not of sound mind, under undue influence. They tried to get Cameron's phone records. His bank statements. Even his personal texts with Marlene. Cameron stayed calm. Provided everything. Every message was respectful. Polite. Never a single request for money. Weir eventually dropped the case. Told Evan it was a waste of time. She was of sound mind, he admitted. Every document is airtight. But Evan wasn't done. He started a smear campaign. Posted online about Cameron. Made up lies about how he manipulated an old woman to cash out a trust fund. Tried to contact local media. Even showed up at the cemetery and left a note on Marlene's grave, he doesn't belong to this family. Cameron found it the next week. He didn't say anything. But he did something else. He went back to Beringer. Can we do something more? He asked. For someone who really deserves it? Beringer raised an eyebrow. Cameron continued, there's someone she talked about. A nurse. Her name was Denise. She stayed late after Marlene's hip surgery. Came to see her every week, even after her shift. I looked her up. She's got 3 kids. She's working 2 jobs. I think that's the kind of person Marlene would want to help. Beringer smiled. She did mention Denise once. Said she was one of the only people who treated her with kindness after the fall. So? Cameron asked. You're the sole beneficiary now. You can do whatever you want. So Cameron did. He rewrote the trust's next phase. He donated a chunk to the veterans' home where Tom volunteered. He set up a scholarship fund in Marlene's name, for working mothers going into nursing. And he gave Denise a $50,000 grant, anonymously, through Beringer's office. She cried when she found out. Asked why. All Beringer told her was, it's from someone who was watching. But the biggest twist hadn't happened yet. Because Rachel and Evan still didn't know about the video. The one Marlene recorded the day after the memorial. She'd asked Cameron to help her set it up. She sat in her kitchen, the same spot where Tom had fallen, and looked straight into the camera. She spoke plainly. No makeup. No smiles. Just the truth. I'm Marlene. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And if you're my children, you failed me. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just told the story. She spoke about standing alone at Tom's grave. About the flag in her lap. About Rachel's laughter on the phone. Evan's silence. Then she explained the trust revision, line by line. I don't owe you anything, she said. And you've earned even less. You were not there when it mattered. You were not there when I needed you. And now you're here for what's left. I've already given it to someone who showed up. Then she ended the video with one sentence. Grief is measured by action, not blood. Beringer had the file. He was just waiting for the right moment to show it. And when he did, they'd finally hear everything they ignored for years. 2 weeks after the failed legal fight, Mr. Beringer called Rachel and Evan back to his office. He told them there was one final item in the trust, a video file Marlene had recorded before her death. It had to be watched in full before the last paperwork could be closed. They didn't want to come. Evan said it sounded pointless. Rachel called it manipulative. But when Beringer mentioned the word final, their curiosity got the better of them. They showed up late. Didn't say hello. Didn't sit together. Beringer didn't speak much. He just pulled up the file on his laptop, turned it toward them, and hit play. There was Marlene. Their mother. Wearing the same cardigan she always wore on cold nights. Hair neat. Eyes tired, but steady. "I'm Marlene," she said, "and if you're watching this, I'm gone. And this is my last word." Rachel shifted uncomfortably. Evan crossed his arms. Marlene continued. "I sat alone at your father's grave. The honor guard folded his flag and handed it to me like I was the only one who ever loved him. Because that day, I was." Evan looked down. "You forgot. You forgot him. You forgot me. You forgot what family means. And when I reminded you, you acted like I was an inconvenience." Rachel clenched her jaw. "You didn't even come for my burial," she said. "I asked the lawyer to keep it private. Not because I didn't want you there, but because I didn't want to go through the pain of being forgotten a second time." She paused. "I changed the trust. You know that by now." Rachel scoffed under her breath. "But what you don't know," Marlene said, "is what you were supposed to get." She leaned forward, her face closer to the camera. "We had over $890,000 in assets. House. Savings. Pensions. Stocks. The trust had no debt. No liens. You would have each received over $400,000. Rachel's eyes widened. Evan sat up straight. "But instead, you each got nothing. Because you earned nothing." Then she smiled, a soft, sad smile. "And I don't regret it." She sat back in her chair. "I gave it to someone who was kind. Someone who showed up. Someone who carried my groceries and changed light bulbs and asked about Tom even though he never met him. I gave it to someone who treated me like a human being." She paused again. "You treated me like a bank." Rachel suddenly stood up. "This is disgusting," she said. She was manipulated. "She's being fed things." Beringer hit pause. "She recorded this on her own," he said flatly. "Cameron didn't even know about the money until months later." "She was bitter," Evan muttered. "She was honest," Beringer replied. "And you're just upset the truth has a price." Rachel stormed out. Evan stayed behind a little longer. Not to argue. Just to sit. He watched the last few minutes in silence. She talked about the good years. The Sunday mornings. The time they went to Myrtle Beach when Evan was 12. The way Tom used to whistle in the garage. She talked about love. And how she hadn't felt it from them in a very long time. The video ended with her looking directly at them. "I didn't punish you," she said. "I freed you. From pretending." Click. Black screen. Weeks passed. The town heard whispers about it. About the trust. The betrayal. The boy who stepped up while the children stepped out. People started treating Rachel differently. Her neighbors, once friendly, now looked at her with quiet pity, or something colder. Her oldest friend at church stopped calling. The PTA moms at her grandkids' school avoided her. Because word had gotten out. Not from Cameron. Not from Beringer. From Evan. Evan couldn't hold it in. One night, after too many drinks, he told a coworker the whole story. And it spread. Akron's a small place. Word sticks. Soon, Rachel's social media was filled with comments. Brunch over your dad's memorial? Shame on you. Imagine getting disinherited on camera. Hope the waffles were worth $400,000. She deleted everything. Evan moved away. Took a job in Pittsburgh. He stopped talking to Rachel altogether. She blamed him for ruining the story. He blamed her for giving people a story to tell. And Cameron? He never spent the money on himself. He used part of it to fix up a rundown house and turn it into a community center for veterans and widows. He named it Tom and Marlene's Place. He hung their wedding photo on the wall. He planted a rose bush in the front garden. He wrote a short message on a plaque near the door: "Love is loyalty. Loyalty is presence." Every Sunday, he visits the cemetery. Brings a flower. Stands by their graves. And he stays long after the others leave. Because he knows what it means to show up. And now, everyone else does too.